there are many, ladies and gentlemen, there are many types of near-death experiences. Now, we've discussed some over the past few weeks. Today, we're going to look at a different kind of near-death experience, the kind that a family faces when they're trying to flee an oppressive country, and they know that death can occur at any moment. Now, imagine living with that stress. Today, we're going to talk about the lost identity of people who have had this experience. Now, every day, we see, we hear, we read about families who will travel thousands of miles under the most adverse and dangerous conditions with a hope, not a promise or a guarantee, simply a hope of a better life. Now, we see these images so often of refugee camps that we've become numb. Well, today we're going to make it real. We're going to talk to a family member who lived through this nightmare. My guest today is Maria Esterline, whose family lived this nightmare. Now, let me tell you something about Maria. She's an experienced educational consultant with a demonstrated history of working in the e-learning industry. Now, she's an education professional with a master's degree focused on experiential program for preparing school principals from Butler University and an educational technology from Indiana University. Maria took the advantage of the opportunity and has made a wonderful life for herself. Maria, welcome to Life Altering Events, Near-Death Experiences.
Well, thank you so much, Frank. What an honor it is to be given the opportunity to share my own near-death experience. And hopefully this can give others hope as well, that any of these experiences can help grow us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Maria, when we spoke, you told me your family's story, and it is, ladies and gentlemen, this is a chilling story. So Maria, please share that.
I would be honored to. I guess I'll start from the beginning, which for me, that was my mom and father. My parents are both remarkable human beings that have made a lot of sacrifices, living in a country that at a certain age, you're finished with school. So therefore, that's it. You go into trade school, you go into the armed forces. For girls, that's not really the option. Anyhow, my mom, these are stories of which my parents have shared with me over the years. My father had a dream, just as many fathers and mothers do, the dream of a better life for their children, a dream of imagining a world where learning is attainable beyond just a high school diploma. And with the dream comes the sacrifice of having to take some risk. With that being said, my mom and dad had made a plan that at any moment, my dad may not come home from work. If that day comes, that would mean that he left on a refugee boat. And that day came, and my dad took the opportunity to go on this boat, and this boat happens to be captured, and therefore anyone that tries to escape that country is going to be put in prison. I mean, you don't leave your country. That's so dishonorable. But I knew, my dad knew that's what it had to take for him to provide a life where is attainable, and getting an education beyond your high school years is a possibility.
Now, this was Vietnam post-war.
Right.
Okay.
And because my father served in the Vietnam War and as a Navy, in the navies. And so that day came, and my father escaped, and my mom knew that that was the plan. If he didn't come home, he's gone. And she heard word that that boat was captured. And so every day she would go to prison and check the log. They keep a log of who gets, And so you really had two choices. If he's alive, he would be in prison. And if he's not alive, if he's not in prison, then he could be dead. I mean, those are really the two options, right?
Right.
What she didn't know was that my father and his friend that he escaped with jumped into the ocean and swam to an island in Malaysia. What he didn't, my father didn't know then that my mom was expecting me.
Oh my goodness.
So the trauma of already just being the pregnancy, you know, all the hormones and all the, you know, challenges that comes with being pregnant, and then to put the added measure of, is my husband alive or is he dead? I don't know, you know. And so many years later, she found out that he was alive, and a Catholic family sponsored my father. So here we are in the ocean and the boat. He's alive, praise the Lord. And then he was trapped on the island of Malaysia because he had malaria. And he, because of a wonderful family that we still stay connected with, the Bedos family, they sponsored him and brought him to Warsaw, Indiana, which is a very small town that had one other Vietnamese family.
Let's
So,
step back a second, Maria.
yeah.
Now, your dad made it to the United States.
Yes.
He's in Indiana.
Yes.
And like many immigrants, he's
Yes.
working and sending money home.
Yes.
Now, sending money home to Vietnam is basically illegal. So how did that work?
Very carefully, lots. And there were telegrams my parents have shared with me. There were telegrams that was sent back and forth just to notify. And eventually he was able to sneak. I mean, he had a family back in Vietnam, so he would send care packages and whatever he could afford, because he left his own country to an unknown country, didn't speak the language, but he just had to do something, right? And so he got a job at a company, an orthopedic company called Zimmer's. And he has worked there for 41 years. Actually, as of January 15th was his last day of working at the same company that has gave him the financial means to bring our family to America. It took him 10 years, but in that 10 years, he worked very hard. He was in his 20s and went back to high school because education is so important. It's why he came. And if he, as a leader of our family, he needed to establish life and learn the language. And so did he get bullied? Probably. Being in his 20s, going to high school, you can imagine what social media would have, you know what I mean, brought that on, right?
Yes.
He lived in a garage. He had a bike, lived in a garage as his rental until he was able to make enough money to build a home. So the home that my parents live in now, my dad built.
Wow, that's amazing.
And he built with the help of others, but with his own hands, he built the home.
What a story.
And after 10 years, it took that 10 years for our family to be reunited.
Now, your mom, you told me your mother's story was pretty interesting too. Share that with the viewers.
Absolutely. My mom was adopted. And not like any typical, the normal adoption of going to an orphanage and, you know, picking up a child and bring them home. My parents, my mom's biological parents didn't have the financial means to raise her. And in our country, it's not like a girl has a lot of value because they can't really carry on the family name.
Right. So
there's not a lot of value in raising her, right? And so they just left her on the side of the road.
Oh my God.
She was about 2 or 3 months old, and she was just left on the side of the road, and a very kind family, my grandparents, picked her up because they couldn't have kids themselves. And they lived out in the country, like way country, where that stories where you hear people walking across a log with water and lakes just to get to their home. That was my grandparents. It was pretty incredible, but they raised her and taught her some essential skills just to survive because, again, I don't think my mom had education past 10th grade, but she knows how to do embroidery. She was working while my dad was in America. So her work was raising 3 kids. That's my 2 older brothers and myself. And she did embroidery. I remember her selling yogurt from our small little ice box. They just taught her some essential life skills that she was able to make a living off of. And I find that so remarkable, that the grit and the determination that she, from the side of the road, has raised now 5 children.
It's a truly incredible story. It's heartbreaking, and then it fills your heart also. It's just so wonderful. Now, 10 years, you've never seen your father. You finally get the opportunity. We're going to go. Tell us what that journey was like, and the stops and the challenges.
It's like, how you plan these trips for your kids to go on vacation.
Right.
And then that day comes when that vacation comes, and you have to tell them, oh, wait, we can't go because some paperwork, and that happened multiple times. But the day that arrived, I remember we had to go from Vung Tau, Vietnam to Ho Chi Minh, which is where the airport is, right? And I remember so vividly why my relatives was crying. And I didn't quite understand, aren't they happy for me? Here we are, I'm 10 years old. Oh, actually I was 9 years old. I was almost 10 because we came July 10th of 1989. So I was like, aren't my relatives happy? We're going to see my dad. I'm gonna get to see my dad for the first time. Why aren't they happy for me? Why are there tears? I didn't know then what I know now, that they were saying goodbye, right? And but I was 10. I was just excited to meet my dad.
Right. And that goodbye is not, I'll see you soon. That goodbye is forever.
I didn't know. And
right.
So it wasn't just a typical straight, flight from Ho Chi Minh to America. We had several steps that we had to take. And people talk about Thailand being this beautiful country that is luscious with green and just rainforest and waterfalls, and I can't say to that because our first stop was in this place, this building that was from the outside just looked like a huge office with several stories, right? And I remember my mom saying, you guys just wait here, to my older brothers and myself. So my older brother is, I'm trying to think here. I'm
okay.
Math-wise. He's 47. He's 46 right now. So, I mean, there's 5-year difference between us. So he's, and my second oldest brother, the 3 of us just kind of stayed huddled while my mom was like, I got to go find a place for us to stay while we're here in this place. And she went up to the 3rd floor and noticed that there were prisoners in there. So by the time she came to the 2nd floor, which is where they held the immigrants, right, going into America. So what we found out is that we were held in prison for a few weeks. And they did that as part of the protocol, right? Because they don't want to bring any diseases. So the word quarantine is very familiar.
Yes, it would be.
But quarantine in prison has a whole new level of meaning. So my mom finally got to the second floor, and by then all the rooms were taken. And let me just paint a picture of the room itself. It's not your 5-star hotel. Prisoners in Thailand was not living the high life. And so imagine a ginormous room with nothing on the wall and bunk beds that didn't have mattresses. So it's by metals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all those rooms were filled up. So the only thing that was available was the hallway. That was just concrete hallway. And so we just found a spot and lived there for 2 weeks. And each day our meal was one small bowl of rice. I'm sorry, a medium-sized bowl of rice to share between the 4 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And my brothers and I learned the hard way because we were trying to sneak in an extra bowl of rice and got spanked and smacked. But we were so fortunate that there was these 2 gentlemen that was sleeping right next to us in this hallway, and they brought salt and pepper.
Mm-hmm.
There were days where our excitement was getting salt and pepper added to our rice. It was so remarkable.
Wow. That's
And
incredible.
and so our day today was, we ended up having to stay a little bit longer because my brother had pink eye.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had pink eye. So finally, 2 weeks later, here we are getting back on the airplane, taking the next leg to America. You know, we go to Japan and then we get to California,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone comes off on the airplane. Everyone's like, goodbye, good to see you. You know, who knows? Because that's where most people immigrate to, more of the bigger cities, right?
Right.
So we're the only one left on the airplane. And we're like, what is going on? Why are we the only one left on the airplane? Where are we going? You know, I didn't know the US. And so we finally landed at a very late evening of in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is the
Mm-hmm.
nearest airport to Warsaw, Indiana.
Mm-hmm. So you
And it's
finally
not
arrived.
peaceful.
Finally arrived, 9 years old, 2 weeks in intense quarantine, waiting to see your dad, and the press gets wind of this. What happened?
So, you know, when you normally meet your father, you're usually a newborn, but, you know, for me, that newborn was 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom tried to prepare me for, you know, like, it's going to be okay. You're going to be nervous, you know, like you've never met your dad. And so when you pick your family and friends up at the airport, you just see them. We were swarmed by the local news. Apparently they got hold of the stories about our family. And
Mm-hmm.
so my first interaction was, my dad was so excited to meet me, but yet I couldn't really hear or see my dad because it was a reunion for all of us. Yet it's not the normal reunion that you would hear of,
Right.
right? I mean,
Exactly.
you don't meet your father with the media.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were people calling my name out, and it was all like Charlie Brown, because although when I was in the prison in Thailand, they did have a teacher come and teach us like little phrases. So there was a song that I learned, and it's still stuck with me, and I've taught it to my students now too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all, but I didn't know. I mean, my name is An, and that's how my, you know, family called me, but they didn't say An. It was all very like gibberish because I didn't understand
Mm-hmm.
the language. And people were just pulling all over, not in like the celebrity style, not in that, because I'm not famous, but just like being pulled. But my fixation, okay, because I'm still 9 years old, was this incredible machine that had food trapped in it called a vending machine.
Vending machines.
It was mind blowing to me because I'm like, in Vietnam, we go and get our fruits and vegetables and our meat. It's all out. Like, it's out. Why is food trapped in a vending machine? How magical is that?
Right. It's
So
part
that,
of the massive culture, and light bulbs, flashlights are going off, and cameras.
yeah.
And you're 9. You're not prepared for this.
I'm 9 years old. Like, I don't even understand the language. Well, if they're asking me things like, how am I supposed to respond?
Right. It's incredible. So you finally made it. You're finally in the United States.
Yeah.
And my family are immigrants also. And the immigrants think the streets are paved with gold.
Oh, the streets are.
Okay. No, they're not. So you're there, you know very little about the culture. You don't speak the language. You don't look like a typical Indiana person. So what were your emotions as you started this new life?
Gosh, I mean, I was fed with these information from my aunts and uncles and cousins that the minute you come to America, you're automatically rich. Like, America is the shrine. You know what I mean? Like, if you get a ticket to America, you do not turn that opportunity down.
Yes.
So you're right. The streets are paved of gold. I mean, the minute I walked in, there were cameras and actions and lights. Isn't that rich right there?
Mm-hmm.
It totally is not. So here
Right.
we are in completely taken away from a culture that we were comfortable with, and make life in a culture. And my dad, who hadn't been a father for 10 years, I mean, he was a father, but physically he wasn't, right? Because he was
Right.
setting things up, but I didn't know, you know. And all of a sudden he was living by himself for 10 years. And now 4 more people was added to, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To the house. And we had one other family that was Vietnamese in our town.
Wow.
So
That part is mind blowing. I was involved in California. The Vietnam refugees were coming to, and a lot of them came into Northern California, but there was a big population, and the assimilation was
right.
easier. Now you had one other family. What was that like?
We knew them from church, from the church that sponsored us, that helped sponsor us, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
um, that was our, I guess, what you called like our own little tribe,
Mm-hmm.
our little community that kind of understand what we were going through. I mean, we were that because we were poor. We were very poor. We were that family you see on a Christmas tree with the ornament.
Mm-hmm.
We are that family. You
Wow.
know, like we didn't have the financial means, but school is so important. It is the best gift that we can give ourselves. It's the gift of learning. So my dad just pour into our home dictionaries and books, and even if we didn't know how to read it, just keep learning. Keep learning. And there was one time we had such gracious people that like came and volunteer hours of teaching us English. And we would go to school during the day, but then in the evening time, we would go to this place called the Alternative Learning Center, where
Mm-hmm.
people would go to get their GED. So my mom would go and get her GED. And then there were people volunteer from local colleges that were just getting their hours for practicum. So I
Mm-hmm.
learned English, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And then my dad, because he was like, I am determined to get you guys acclimated to this culture, to so that you can kind of blend in. We
Right.
don't want to stand out. We want to blend in so we don't look so different, because we are foreigners, right? But let's not pretend, like, let's not like act like we're for, you know what I mean? Like, let's
Yes.
learn the language and let's try to act like we are.
I understand completely, having lived through that myself, not to the degree you did, but it was
Mhm.
speak English. You're American now. Assimilate, learn. And education was critical. It was critical to your family. Now
Mhm.
you have a master's degree in education. You're planning on a PhD. What were all the challenges you faced as you were learning the language to get you have very advanced degrees?
Right. I think that because of what my dad went through, the courage that he went through, I just have lived with this feeling of not ever wanting to let him down.
Mm-hmm.
And because he made the ultimate sacrifice to be away from my mom so that he can create a better life for us. I never want to turn down a learning opportunity. And so was I faced with adversity? Absolutely. Was I faced with kids making fun of me? Absolutely, because I couldn't spell or I couldn't say words correctly. So
Mhm.
if people ask me about Indiana history, I can say, you know what? That was when I was learning English. So Indiana history was not something on my priority list.
Correct.
Because I was getting pulled out at that time with volunteers teaching me how to pronunciate the letters and
Mhm.
how to read a sentence. And so that fourth grade and fifth grade years were just me learning the language. By sixth grade, I was right back in the classroom doing the regular
Mhm.
coursework. And I think part of that is because my dad's motivation to get me so blend in that I never was given a chance to fail. Like I
Mhm.
was, I may not have been the best student, but how do you define best? Because
Correct.
apparently if I tell my friends that now, like, how are you in the regular English class in sixth grade after just learning 2 years?
Mhm.
I don't know. I, I just was put in there and I just did the work. I didn't have any choice.
Correct. And it was in the family, there wasn't so much pressure because I didn't feel pressure either. It
Mhm.
was, this is what you do,
This-
correct?
Yeah, this is your job.
Mhm.
It's your job. And did I have teachers that made fun of me? Absolutely. I was, when you're 16 and you get a car in
Mhm.
America, our family weren't so focused on getting us a car. We have to work for everything because that's part of our culture. I was made fun of by the bus driver because as a junior in high school and a senior, I was still riding the bus.
Mhm.
And that was so uncool. And so the
Right.
bus driver would just constantly laugh at me when she's picking me up from the my bus stop because you're so uncool
Right.
that your parents can't afford for you to have a car to drive around. So there was trauma from that, right? I mean, that's
That's pretty serious stuff.
I mean, can you imagine what that would be like? That was in 1989. Oh no, I'm sorry. I graduated in 1998. Oh my goodness. So that was in the 1990s, right?
Mhm.
Imagine what that would equate to if we're looking at our current state of our nation now,
Right.
right? I mean, so many layers, right? And so I was faced with not doing well on tests. I didn't comprehend very well.
Mhm.
And I remember having to get my SAT scores and, apply for college. And um, I got accepted to IU. I didn't get accepted to Purdue, but uh, when I got my letter of acceptance to IU, my parents were like, you have a choice. You can, and my dad gave us, my two older brothers and us all the same choice, and that's, you can go to a local community college and we'll give you a car, or you can go away to college and we're not going to give you a car. We'll pay for half of your
College.
college. And so I chose to go away to college. I wanted
Mhm.
to experience college life, and I didn't have a car until my junior year in college.
Mhm.
Um, and I had to apply and I ended up going to Ball State because that was acceptable to my parents because it was 2 hours away versus IU being 3 hours away. And
Correct.
they were going to have to drive me. So Ball State was probably the best decision for our
Mhm.
family. And I absolutely loved my college years. And I was one of those students that had to write a letter to beg them to accept me into college
Mhm.
because my test scores did not showcase my cognitive abilities to do well in college.
Well, it's credit to Ball State for having the foresight to understand that the situations are unique. And I hear this all the time. SAT scores are not necessarily a representation of your abilities. And
Right,
you've proven that.
right. And so my Ball State years was when I knew, when because my fourth grade teacher went above and beyond. She just did everything she could to ensure that I get the best, blend in the best I can, and get me the foundation I needed to keep growing. And so I knew that a grateful heart is giving back to her. And me giving back to her was picking a career that's going to showcase that she had that power of an impact in my life. And I went to be a teacher because I wanted her to know how much I'm so thankful for her. Even though my parents wants me to be in medical field.
Correct.
And that was struggle, right? Because that's a traditional mentality of, if you're going to be an Asian, you're going to go to college, you're going to be like a nurse or a doctor or something, a lawyer, something where you're going to make a good name for our family.
Right.
I did not.
That was almost every immigrant family wanted that.
Right. And so I went into teaching because I wanted to give back and be that same impact that my teacher had for me.
That's incredible. Now that you're grown, and one of the challenges of being an immigrant is trying to keep your cultural traditions alive, because you start to splinter as you assimilate. And that was a big challenge for the Italian Sicilian community. What are you, some of the ones you're trying to keep alive? How are you keeping some of that culture for your children?
Well, I think they hear me talking to my parents because I told them many times, because it's so much easier to teach young kids another language.
Yes.
Because their brain is so magnificent and they're just absorbs, right? And so it's so easy to teach them a second language. And so because of the community that my father has, tried to create for us to get acclimated and not to blend in, I was losing my English, my Vietnamese speaking abilities. And so to this day, I still call my parents and practice the language because I want my kids to know that that's super important to us. And just the respect, a grateful heart, like a thankful for that life is not going to be handed to you on a silver platter. Although we have grown and we have established, a decent life for our family, but that didn't come without hard work. Exactly. And so that's something that it's really ingrained in my children, of which I have two, a preteen and a teenager. And I think that they see their mom working and having to face adversity every single day, of knowing that she is a foreigner. It brings about some frustration, right? Like, Mom, why can't you just be like everyone? Like, why do you stand out so much?
I understand. Now, tell us a little about the teaching that you're doing. You're teaching large numbers of students, correct?
I do. I currently, I've been so fortunate that the path of learning that I've taken after I got my teaching degree, I did not want to stop learning. I knew I wanted to get a master's, but at that time I was faced with, do I want to do reading where I can build my comprehension, or do I want to do technology where I knew I was going to have to put in position to keep learning and keep growing and keep evolving and I also was a teacher that integrated technology in a very seamless way. And so I was kind of known in my school district as like the tech person, the tech integrator, and have gone and gotten awards for different projects that, anyhow, I saw the light bulb in my students' eyes when I introduced or mirrored learning with any technology tool. And so that was why I immediately wanted to do education technology, because I always want to position myself as a student to understand what learning experiences that my students bring and learn from them too. As
Correct.
I'm growing and gaining experience, I also want to learn with the generation of students. We didn't come into the world of technology. It was kind of just, we had to learn like this new tool, just like learning to ride a bike, right? And where our kids nowadays come to the world already having a digital footprint. Before they were even born, their parents are announcing them that they're expecting. The parents are announcing it's a boy or a girl, and then the announcements of here I am. So their digital footprint is a lot longer than the digital footprint that I bring in. But yeah, I saw the power of learning that can be elevated when we try to understand and meet students where they are.
Right. And it's incredible. I was in high tech for many, many years, and I didn't have a PC growing up, and I didn't have a cell phone until I was like in my 30s. So I give things like to my grandson and say, here, make this work, because it's so natural and normal for them.
It's like learning to walk. You have to keep practicing. We have to keep trying. And, when the online learning came about, it's so beautiful to see the involvement of how, and that's why I had created a summer online program while I was teaching in Westfield, Indiana, which is where I got my first teaching job. I created a summer online program to help bridge the summer learning loss.
Wow.
And it was free for the parents. So it started out with like $675, and it grew into a district-wide initiative that ended up, by the time I left Westfield, I think it was upwards to 4,000 students. And it was started out as 2 courses for 4th and 5th grade students to becoming like K-12. And I was the one managing the integration of how we can take learning to the next level and basically teaching the kids. And this was in 2009. I was teaching them, and I was studying the human behavior of what am I going to do to get my students to log back in? Like, what's the hook? Just like a story, just like a movie, right? What's the hook? And what we found was that the discussion thread, what keeps them logging in every time, is responding to them. By me responding to a kid's post about a book that he or she read, that motivated them to go back and say, oh, I wonder what Miss Esterline said, And it's that drive, when we show up for our students, they will show up for us. The intention that we pour out, they'll want to rise to the occasion and then we started adding in like, oh, if you do enter it in 5 times, you'll be put in a drawing. And so that led to like a marketing opportunity where we were presenting our project at different conferences, and people were coming up and say, could you package that and sell it to us? And so I did some of that. I packaged it and sold it to, I think, 8 school districts around the nation.
That's incredible. And as we're going to this COVID, where you don't have any choice, really, what you have done is laid out, here's a blueprint. Yeah, we can get through this. Here's how you can do it.
We can.
It's amazing.
We just have to pivot, right? We just pivot the way we look at things. And that's what we do in education so much, is we differentiate. And what connected me to you, Frank, was an interview that you had with Franny Matthews. And just hearing her just overcoming like all the different obstacles and just trying this and trying that out. And then she said, oh, well, we presented at ASQ, which is the American Quality, and then the Baldrige. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, is this person like, I get it. I too manage a team that took 2 teams to the ASQ.
That's incredible. Franny has inspired so many people, and I'm glad that we were able to connect you. Maria, we're just about out of time here, but with all you've been through and all that you've accomplished in your life, what last words do you want to leave with the viewers around the world?
I think for that, because of the journey that I've been on and the adversity that I've had to face, the term possibilitarian comes to mind. And it was a word that I taught my students many years ago. And I think I heard it on the radio. And I was like, pondered about it. And it's like, how can I use this into a lesson? Well, I just started chunking up the word. Like, this is a big word. How can we kind of scaffold it, right? And so we were learning about roots and then just thinking about, okay, well, what's a veterinarian? What's a vegetarian? Those are people that are, you know what I mean? So why not possibilitarian is having a mindset of an endless possibility, as in you're always going to show up, even when the road gets hard. If you stand yourself in a position where you're giving yourself a chance, many wonderful opportunities will arise. And is it going to have setback? Absolutely. But those setback is a setup for something so grand. And we don't know unless we give it a try and know that anything is possible. And it's not just a platitude, but just the fact that if we give ourselves permission to learn and grow, our brain is a powerful tool. And it's the best gift.
That's incredible. That's just an incredible story. As I said, ladies and gentlemen, we're just about out of time. I want to thank Maria one more time. This story is amazing, to what they went through as a family, what she has accomplished as a professional woman and as a mother and as an educator is truly, truly amazing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what life throws at you, and it's going to throw a lot at you, as we just heard, please do three things. Look up, get up, never, ever give up. Pick up the pieces, keep moving forward, and better times and better people like Maria will come into your life, and Franny Matthews will come into your life. If you'd like more information about Maria, you can contact her at her website or contact me, and I will make sure it gets to her. Now, you can see this show on Roku TV or on my YouTube page, Frank Zaccari. If you go to YouTube, please subscribe. And I will also send a post to the link to Maria, and she'll post it at all the places where she posts her information. So let me leave you with this, ladies and gentlemen. I do this every week. None of us are in this alone. And the secret to walking on water is to know where the rocks are. And today, Maria showed us where many of those rocks are. Join me next week. We discuss another life-altering event. Thank you again, Maria.
Thank you so much, Frank.